Arale had never imagined her life would fall apart in a single night. One moment she was the proud heir of the Celestian dynasty, raised among shining towers and star-born halls carved with her ancestors' victories. The next moment, fire filled the sky, alarms rang through the palace, and she ran through smoke-filled corridors as the empire she loved crumbled behind her. Her throne, her family, her royal guard, everything vanished in a wave of betrayal so sudden that she barely understood what was happening. The traitor leading the attack was her own cousin, someone she once trusted, someone who smiled at her during royal dinners and stood beside her in ceremonies. Now his fleet hunted her across the galaxy. Her escape ship barely made it out of orbit. Damaged engines sputtered, power dimmed, and the navigation screen blinked the same warning again and again. Critical system failure. The stars twisted, her ship spun, then it dove toward a forgotten frontier moon at the edge of a broken mining region. She braced herself, gripping the seat with trembling hands, helpless as the ship slammed into rocky ground and slid across dust and shattered metal. When she opened her eyes, everything was silent, except for the hiss of leaking pipes. Her head throbbed, sparks flickered along the cracked dashboard. The air tasted like smoke. She pushed the door open with aching arms and stepped into a world of faded lights, old structures, and abandoned equipment half buried under sand. No guards, no soldiers, no one who knew her name. For the first time in her life, Arale stood alone without the weight of a royal court watching her every move. She took a shaky breath and tried to steady herself. She told her mind she was still a princess. She still carried royal blood. She still had the right to rise again. But her heart whispered that none of those things mattered if she died out here before anyone even knew she survived. She felt dizzy again. The air was thinner than her homeworld's. Her injured leg buckled. She grabbed a beam to stay standing. Just when she thought she might collapse again, she heard footsteps behind her light. Steady, unhurried, almost casual. She spun around with her hand raised, ready to summon what little energy she had left. A human stood a few steps away. He wore dusty work clothes, gloves tucked into his belt, and a small toolkit hanging from one side. His hair was messy, his face calm, his expression more curious than afraid. She blinked in confusion. Humans were rare in Imperial core worlds, and she had only seen them during diplomatic events. They worked hard, lived far from politics, and rarely appeared in royal circles. But this one looked at her as if she were simply another lost traveler. He raised his hand slowly. "Hey. You look like you're about to pass out. Are you injured?" She straightened herself, trying to regain the posture her tutors drilled into her. "I am Princess Arale of the Celestian dynasty. Heir to..." He walked up to her before she finished, checked her arm gently, and nodded to himself. "Yes, you're injured. Titles can wait." She froze. No one had ever interrupted her like that. No one had ever spoken to her like that. He didn't kneel, didn't bow, didn't use honorifics. He simply helped her sit on a crate and inspected the cut on her shoulder as if she were any normal woman. "I didn't give you permission to touch me," she said stiffly. "You also didn't give me permission to let you bleed," he replied calmly. "But here we are." She stared at him, stunned. Most people trembled in front of her rank. But this human spoke like a person who cared more about the situation than her title. "What is your name?" she asked, trying to regain control. "Ethan," he said. "Engineer, station researcher. And, apparently, the guy who found a crashed ship in the middle of nowhere. You're not afraid?" He shrugged. "Should I be?" She didn't know what to say. She expected fear, awe, maybe even anger. He gave her none of those things. Her wounds were cleaned, wrapped, and secured. She felt lighter, though still shaken. Ethan guided her to a small outpost building, half metal, half old stone, filled with tools, wires, and devices she didn't recognize. He handed her water and food, then sat a few feet away as if giving her space. "You said you're a princess," he said gently. "Do you want to tell me what happened to you?" "Ah." She hesitated. Revealing too much could be dangerous. But looking at his steady eyes, she felt something rare. Safety. Not because he was strong or powerful, but because he didn't judge her. "I was betrayed," she said quietly. "My cousin seized control of the throne. He destroyed our defenses and hunted our family. I barely escaped alive. My ship, it wasn't supposed to crash here." Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing every word. He didn't laugh, didn't question her sanity, didn't treat her like a liar. He simply listened. "That sounds like a lot," he said. "You should rest first." "No. I need to repair my ship. I must return and reclaim the throne." Not in your condition," he said firmly. "And not with that ship. It's beyond damaged." Her eyes widened. "You saw it?" "I saw half of it sticking out of a crater." Her chest tightened. She felt like she was sinking again, drowning under the weight of failure. Ethan leaned forward. "But you're not hopeless. You survived. And that's the first win." She looked away. She wasn't sure if he understood what losing an empire felt like. But maybe surviving truly was the first step. Hours passed. Ethan worked on salvaging pieces of her ship while she rested near the tools. The moon's pale light softened the world, and she watched him work quiet, focused, unbothered by the chaos she brought with her. Humans fascinated her. They were adaptable, calm, and stubborn in strange ways. Ethan was all of those things combined. But the real danger arrived sooner than she expected. As dusk fell, a ship thundered through the sky, circling the moon's surface. Arale felt her blood freeze. The emblem under the ship's wings was unmistakable, her cousin's bounty hunters. "They're here," she whispered. Ethan didn't panic. He grabbed a small device from his table and checked the readings. "They're scanning for life forms. They'll land soon." "I must hide," she said quickly. "You must not be seen with me." "If they think you're helping me," he shook his head. "I'm not handing you over. You don't understand. They will hurt you. Then they'll have to catch me first," he said, already moving. He opened a hidden floor panel and pulled out wires, batteries, and devices she had no names for. He arranged them with speed that shocked her. He threw her a cloak, hooked a scanner to the door, and stacked crates in a pattern she didn't understand. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Old mining trick," he said. "You create a fake heat trail to fool scanners and redirect them to the wrong part of the station." She watched him work, feeling an unexpected rush of hope. This human wasn't a warrior, didn't carry weapons, and didn't have soldiers behind him. But he had something else: cleverness. A kind of courage that didn't shout or boast. A human type of bravery she had never learned in the palace. The bounty hunters landed. Heavy boots hit the ground. Voices echoed outside. "Princess Arale is here. Spread out." She held her breath. Ethan remained calm. He signaled for her to stay low. A loud beep echoed from outside, followed by angry shouts. "This way. The scanner says she went north." Their steps faded. They ran in the wrong direction. Ethan exhaled. "Good. That bought us a few minutes." She couldn't believe it. "You redirected their scans? With basic tools?" "It's all about knowing how old machines think," he said. "And their ship uses old scanning tech." "Ethan, thank you." He didn't look at her. "Let's get you out of here." They sneaked through a back corridor, moving between shadows and broken equipment. Her leg ached, but she pushed forward. Ethan supported her carefully, adjusting his pace to match hers. They reached a hidden tunnel leading to an old cargo garage. Ethan powered up a small transport shuttle, rusty, outdated, and barely functioning. "This thing flies?" she asked. "Flies is a strong word," he said. "But it moves. And right now, that's enough." As they lifted off, the bounty hunters burst into the garage, firing warning shots. Ethan steered hard, dodging debris as the shuttle scraped against metal beams and shot into the open sky. Arale looked at him, her heart pounding. "Why are you risking your life for me? You don't even know me." Ethan didn't flinch. "Because helping someone who needs help shouldn't require knowing their whole story." She stared at him silently, feeling something shift inside her, a small spark of trust she didn't expect to feel again. The shuttle rose higher, leaving the moon behind. The stars stretched before them like a quiet promise. Arale looked out at the endless sky and whispered to herself that maybe the throne wasn't lost forever. Maybe she could rise again, and maybe she wouldn't have to do it alone. Ethan adjusted the controls, giving her a quick, reassuring glance. "You said you want your throne back," he said softly. "Then let's start with staying alive. After that, we'll figure out the rest." For the first time since her empire fell, Arale nodded with certainty. "Yes," she whispered, "we will." And in that small, fragile shuttle, drifting away from a dying moon, the beginning of her return began, guided by a human she never expected to save her. Ethan's old shuttle shook as it entered open space, rattling so hard that even Arale thought it might fall apart at any moment. The metal panels groaned, lights flickered, and the engine made a strange sound like a tired animal struggling to keep moving. Arale held the side rail tightly, her heart pounding with every sudden jolt. But Ethan sat at the controls completely calm, adjusting switches and tapping screens, as if flying this unstable machine was nothing more than a relaxed morning routine. When the trembling finally softened, Arale exhaled in relief. Her muscles relaxed, and she sank back in her seat. Outside the window, stars stretched like glowing rivers across the black. She stared at them, remembering how she once flew in royal ships, smooth crafts built with technology. Her people guarded closely. Now she sat inside a rusty shuttle with scratches on the walls, flickering lights, and a pilot who wasn't a soldier, noble, or elite guard. Just a human engineer with a soft voice and stubborn courage. "You okay?" Ethan asked gently, not taking his eyes off the view ahead. I will be," she said quietly. "You handled those hunters better than most people would. That was brave." She looked at him, surprised by the compliment. Back home, courage was measured in perfect battle stances and flawless commands. Ethan's version felt different, warm, honest, and real. "Where are we going?" she asked. "A safe place," he replied. "Somewhere they won't look for you. Some of my friends live there. They're decent people. They'll help." She frowned slightly. "Friends?" "Mostly," he said with a small smile. "A few other species too. Nobody important, just simple folks trying to get through each day." Arale felt uneasy. She wasn't used to depending on strangers, especially ones without rank or training. But she didn't argue. Right now, she had no soldiers, no palace, no authority. Ethan was the only person who had stood beside her, and that meant more than any royal title. Hours passed as they traveled through quiet star fields and broken asteroid rings. Ethan kept adjusting the controls, keeping the shuttle steady. Sometimes he hummed softly. Sometimes he talked about small things, how he fixed mining tools, how he learned to build small gadgets, how he once created a cooling device using only scrap parts and spare wires. Arale listened, amazed. Humans weren't taught in her empire's schools. They weren't seen as innovators. But Ethan's stories showed a different side, creative, adaptable, quietly brilliant. "Why do you help strangers?" she asked at one point. Ethan shrugged. "Because someone helped me when I needed it. It taught me that kindness shouldn't be rare." She stared at him, trying to understand how a simple man could give something so valuable so casually. Before she could speak again, the shuttle beeped. Ethan checked the scanner and nodded. "We're close." The safe place turned out to be a small settlement on a drifting space platform. It rotated slowly, surrounded by rings of floating scrap metal. Old docking bays flickered with weak lights, and large pipes released mist into the air. It wasn't beautiful, but it felt alive in its own rough way. When they landed, two humans came running, one tall and broad-shouldered, the other short and round with a cheerful face. "Ethan! You're back early, wait, who's this?" the tall one asked, staring at Arale with wide eyes. "A traveler who needs help," Ethan said simply. The short one grinned. "Well, anyone who arrives with Ethan is welcome. Come in, come in." Arale didn't know how to react. They greeted her with warmth instead of suspicion. They asked her name without fear or hesitation. She answered carefully, avoiding her full royal title. But Ethan watched her with a knowing smile. He understood her caution. The settlement was filled with small workshops, narrow halls, and rooms lit with soft lamps. Children ran around chasing a floating toy sphere. An older woman sat knitting beside a window showing the endless stars. A pair of alien siblings with patterned skin repaired a broken transporter plate. Everything felt peaceful, simple, and strangely comforting. Arale followed Ethan to a quiet room with a long table scattered with tools and metal parts. He closed the door gently and turned to her. "You're safe here. Nobody will report you." She nodded but still felt a heaviness inside. "Safe, but not free. My cousin still controls the capital. My people are suffering. I cannot hide forever." "I'm not telling you to hide forever," Ethan said. "I'm saying you need to heal and plan. If you go alone now, you'll lose." She lowered her eyes. She hated to admit it, but he was right. Over the next few days, Arale watched the settlement's daily life. Ethan repaired systems, taught kids how to fix small machines, and helped traders maintain their old ships. Everyone respected him, not because of rank, but because he was reliable, honest, and always willing to lend a hand. Arale felt something strange inside her whenever she saw him laugh or smile. She pushed the feeling away. It was foolish, impossible, and inappropriate. She was a princess. He was a human engineer. Their worlds should never mix. But her heart didn't listen to rules. One evening, as Ethan was working on a broken generator, Arale approached him quietly. "Ethan, can you help me build a plan to take back my throne?" He set down his tools and faced her. "I've been waiting for you to ask." She blinked. "You knew I would? You're not the kind of person who quits," he said softly. "I saw that the moment you stepped out of that crashed ship." They spent hours studying star maps, analyzing enemy patterns, and listing possible allies. Arale explained the political structure of her empire, the loyalty of distant border fleets, the hidden bases her father once mentioned. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions she had never been asked before, questions about people, not just power. "Why would outer colonies follow you?" he asked. "Because I carry royal blood," she replied. Ethan shook his head gently. "People don't follow blood forever. They follow someone who gives them a reason." His words hit her harder than she expected. She had always believed the throne was hers by birthright. But Ethan's view made her wonder if she needed more than a title. She needed to become someone people believed in. Over the next few days, Ethan helped her send secret messages to old loyalists. They repaired small ships using scraps. They trained settlers to defend themselves. Everyone joined without hesitation, because Ethan trusted her. And they trusted Ethan. Arale felt something growing, a spark of hope she thought she lost forever. But hope became danger again sooner than expected. One night, alarms rang across the platform. "Unknown ship approaching. It's scanning us." Arale rushed outside with Ethan. A sleek warship hovered outside the platform, one of her cousin's hunters. Its dark color reflected the stars like a predator watching prey. Ethan cursed under his breath. "They found us." "How?" Arale whispered. "We were careful." Before they could plan, the warship fired a small warning shot that shook the platform. Everyone panicked. Ethan grabbed her hand. "We need to move. They'll land soon." "No," Arale said sharply. "I won't let these people pay the price for helping me. And I won't let you sacrifice yourself," Ethan replied, gripping her arm. She turned toward him, anger and fear mixing inside her. "Ethan, you don't understand. These hunters won't stop until they catch me. They'll destroy the platform and every life on it. Then we fight smart," he said calmly. He ran into the workshop and grabbed a device she didn't recognize, a compact sphere with glowing circuits. "This is a pulse disruptor. It can disable their landing gear for a few minutes. Enough to escape." Arale stared at him. "You built that?" "Needed something to stop old mining patrols," he said. "Never thought I'd use it on a warship." She took a breath. "I'm coming with you." "No, you're not." "Yes, I am." Their eyes locked. both refusing to bend. Finally, Ethan sighed. Fine. But stay behind me. They climbed to an old tower, wind rushing around them. The hunter ship lowered closer, its spotlight sweeping the platform. Arale felt her pulse quicken. Ethan knelt and activated the disruptor. 3 seconds, he whispered. The device hummed, glowing brighter. 2. The warship moved toward the landing pad. 1. Ethan threw the sphere. A shockwave burst across the sky. The warship jolted violently, engines sparking. It tilted sideways, stabilizers failing for a moment. Chaos erupted as the hunters lost control, drifting dangerously close to the scrap rings. The settlers cheered, but their victory was temporary. The warship recovered faster than expected and launched small drones. Arale's breath caught. They're coming. Ethan grabbed her hand again. Then we run. Together they sprinted through corridors, dodging falling debris and passing terrified settlers. The drones chased them like sharp metal insects, scanning every corner. As they reached a hidden loading dock, Arale stumbled. Her injured leg gave way. Ethan grabbed her before she fell. Are you hurt? It's nothing, she said, even though pain burned through her. He lifted her carefully. I'm not leaving you. A drone shot toward them. Ethan shielded her with his own body as it fired a stun blast that hit the wall beside them. Arale felt her heart drop as he gritted his teeth. Holding her tight. You could have been hit, she whispered. Better me than you, he said softly. Her chest tightened with emotion she didn't know how to name. They reached a small side ship that the settlers kept hidden. Ethan quickly activated it. As the hatch closed, the drones swarmed outside, firing bolts that sparked against the metal. Hold on, Ethan shouted. The small ship burst forward, tearing away from the platform. Arale looked through the window as the settlement grew small behind them. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from guilt. They risked themselves because of her. Ethan touched her shoulder gently. We'll come back for them. But first, we stay alive. Arale nodded slowly, her throat tight. We will. And when I reclaim my throne, I will protect them all. She looked at Ethan, who sat beside her, tired but determined. In that moment, she realized something unshakable. Her fight was no longer just about reclaiming the throne. It was about protecting the people who believed in her, especially the human who refused to leave her side. The small side ship shook as it cut through the shadows of deep space, engines whining under the pressure of speed they were never designed to handle. Arale sat beside Ethan, holding tightly to the seat as sparks flickered from a loose panel. Neither of them spoke for several minutes, both catching their breath from the escape. Behind them, the drifting platform Ethan's home was now a tiny speck among the stars, still under threat from the hunters who had come for her. Arale stared at the shrinking lights with worry tightening her chest. She had brought danger into the lives of people who had nothing to do with her throne or her war. Ethan sensed her thoughts without her saying a word. You're blaming yourself, he said quietly. I endangered your home, she whispered. Your friends trusted you, and because of me, because of you, they're still alive, he interrupted gently. If you hadn't warned us, those drones would have torn through the platform before anyone reacted. You bought them time to escape. She looked at him deeply, searching his eyes for anger or blame. She found neither. Only that steady, calm strength he always carried. But they lost their safety. She murmured. Their peaceful life. Ethan shook his head. Peace without purpose fades fast. They'll rebuild. They always do. For a moment, they simply sat there, two people bound by danger, running toward an uncertain tomorrow. The silence wasn't heavy. It was warm, filled with unspoken trust. Ethan began making adjustments to the controls. The ship beeped lightly as he checked fuel levels and navigational routes. We can't stay out here long, he said. We need a real hideout. Somewhere your cousin's forces won't expect. Arale nodded. There is an abandoned base in the Nebula Verge. It belonged to my father before the Empire expanded. Only our closest circle knew of it. It has supplies and old communication arrays. It may still work. Ethan glanced at her. Can you find it? Yes, she replied softly. If it still stands. He smiled. Then that's where we go. Hours passed as they traveled through thick cosmic dust and glowing clouds of star debris. The nebula verge was a dangerous region, famous for lost ships, unstable magnetic fields, and hidden dangers. But Arale remembered traveling through it as a child, sitting beside her father as he told her stories of ancient explorers. When they reached the coordinates, she almost didn't recognize the place. The base floated among shattered rocks, half covered in dust and space frost. Its outer shields flickered weakly, showing gaps where meteors had hit over the years. It's falling apart, Ethan said softly. She nodded. But it's ours. They docked with difficulty, scraping against old metal panels. When the hatch opened, cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of rust and forgotten memories. Arale walked ahead, her steps slow, as she looked at the familiar halls she had once run through as a child. Ethan followed close behind, scanning for danger. Lights flickered on after decades of silence, recognizing her royal signature. The base seemed to awaken like an old guardian, seeing its heir again. Arale placed her hand on the main control panel. I never thought I would return here, and I never thought I'd be standing inside an Imperial base, Ethan said with a small laugh. She smiled faintly, a real smile that surprised even her. Over the next few days, they restored power to the base, organized supplies, and set up communication lines. Ethan worked with steady hands, repairing systems with skill even her royal engineers might respect. Arale watched him closely, amazed by the way he made broken things come alive again. One night, while Ethan worked on the long-range transmitter, Arale approached him quietly. Ethan, you never asked why I trust you. He looked up from his tools. I don't need to ask, but you should know, she said softly. When my cousin attacked, everyone around me turned their back. Advisors, commanders, even servants. They ran or joined him. But you, a stranger, you stood with me without hesitation. Ethan leaned back slightly. Arale, I didn't choose you because of your title. I chose you because you needed someone. Anyone would have helped. She shook her head. No, not anyone. Only you. For a moment, he didn't respond. His eyes softened. Something unspoken passed between them, warm and fragile. Before either could say more, the transmitter beeped. Arale rushed to the screen. A signal was incoming, weak, almost broken, but unmistakable. It's from one of my father's old generals, she whispered. Ethan stepped beside her. Play it. Sighs. A shaky hologram flickered into the air, showing a tired, elderly man with deep scars and fading armor. His voice was rough but filled with loyalty. Princess Arale, if you are alive, we are still here. Scattered. Hunted. But waiting. Your cousin's rule weakens every day. If you return, if you lead us, we will gather. The message ended in static. Arale closed her eyes. The general's voice ignited something inside her, a fire of responsibility, of hope, of purpose. I must go to them, she said. You will, Ethan replied. But not alone. They spent the next 2 days preparing. The base held an old Imperial cruiser, damaged but functional. Ethan restored its engines with careful precision. Arale calibrated its weapons. Together they transformed it into something ready for war. When they finally launched, Arale felt the first real surge of confidence she'd had since her empire fell. Ethan stood beside her on the command deck, calm as always, ready for anything. Their journey led them to old loyalists hiding across distant moons, forgotten outposts, and abandoned stations. Each time Arale revealed herself, many gasped, bowed, or cried in disbelief. Some had lost hope. Some had been waiting. Some had protected small fragments of the old empire in her name. By the time they reached the outer rim, Arale had gathered a fleet, not large, but strong, loyal, and prepared to follow her into battle. Ethan stood with her on the bridge, now wearing simple armor the soldiers had crafted for him. When she saw him in it, something warm stirred in her chest. "I'm not a soldier," he said shyly. "You are more than that," she replied. "You are my strength." His eyes softened. But before he could speak, alarms flashed. The enemy flagship had appeared, the ship of her cousin, the one who stole her throne. The final confrontation had arrived. Aralei's fleet positioned itself. Ethan stood beside her, checking systems and giving calm instructions. She admired how quickly he had become part of her world, how naturally he commanded respect from her crew. Her cousin's voice boomed over the communication screen. "Aralei, you survived. A mistake I will now correct." She stepped forward. "You betrayed our family. You brought darkness to our people. Today, I will end your rule." He laughed coldly. "You brought a human to your bridge? How far the air has fallen." Ethan smiled faintly. "Funny. I was thinking the same about you." Before the enemy could respond, Aralei ordered the attack. The battle exploded across the sky, ships weaving through fire, shields sparking, engines roaring. Aralei commanded with precision, her voice strong and clear. Ethan coordinated repairs, redirected power, and guided crews through danger with calm brilliance. When the enemy flagship weakened, Aralei made her choice. "I'm going aboard," she said. Ethan grabbed her arm. "You can't go alone." "I'm not," she replied softly. "You're coming with me." Their eyes locked, and he nodded without hesitation. They boarded the flagship together, fighting through corridors filled with smoke and alarms. Aralei moved with royal determination, Ethan with quiet courage. They reached the throne chamber where her cousin waited. The confrontation was tense. Her cousin mocked her, insulted Ethan, and attempted to convince her she was unworthy. But Aralei stood firm, not because of her birthright, but because of what she had learned. Leadership was not a crown, it was the people who stood beside you. She defeated her cousin with strategy and resolve, not rage. She refused to harm him, instead ordering he be imprisoned for trial. Her people needed justice, not revenge. When the throne room fell silent, Aralei stood before the seat of her ancestors. The weight of her past and the promise of her future pressed on her shoulders. She turned slowly to Ethan. "You helped me reclaim my throne," she whispered. "But more than that, you helped me reclaim myself." Ethan stepped closer, his voice warm. "You never lost yourself, Aralei. You just needed someone to remind you who you are." She felt emotion rise inside her, soft, powerful, overwhelming. "Stay with me," she said quietly. "Not as a subject, not as a servant, as the person I trust above all." Ethan smiled, gentle and sincere. "I'm not going anywhere." Aralei reached for his hand, and he held it firmly. Through the shattered windows, the stars glowed brightly. Her people began cheering in the distance. The empire had been reclaimed, not through force alone, but through loyalty, compassion, and the bond between a fallen princess and a human who refused to abandon her. In that moment, the Empire of Dust began a new chapter, one built not on fear, but on unity. And at the heart of it stood Aralei and Ethan, ready to rebuild a future together.